Hello, community. Maybe it is time to update our RAG system. Let me explain why. It was so beautiful, no? We had here our pre-training, our supervised fine-tuning, our DPO alignment. We had a query and an answer, and it was done in milliseconds. Everything was beautiful. And then we opened up 2024, and everybody was coding here our retrieval augmented generation modules, our RAG system. And it was simple, a retriever to a SQL database or whatever. Then you get some augmented prompt structure with some few-shot example here in the in-context learning prompt, and you get here reply, the LLM generated an answer, and this was more or less 2024. And now we are in February 2025. And let me show you the latest idea that currently we have from the University of Oxford. So at first we are not anymore in training time compute, but we are in test time compute. We are in inference calculation. So we have a very specific query. We have a model like DeepSeek or one or Gemini 2.0 thinking. So what we have here our reasoning LLMs. And you see here a beautiful reasoning explanation we can read, and then we get an answer. Now imagine if we read this here, that we read here, hey, there is something about, let's say, finance. And there are more or less two options. And if I want to invest in something, I want to calculate here, hey, what is the best rate on return on my investment? So what we have a code agent and a search agent. Now, and you get it already, if, let's say, there's something in finance and there's something in finance, the first reasoning step here of our R1 or our Gemini 2.0, there is just, hey, this should be investigated, or maybe this would be another option for you to invest. So we have, let's say, for the finance, a code agent, this is a Python agent, and there's simple a standard investment calculation formula, nothing special. What we get after the code agent calculated here is, we get profit for the option A is 7% and the profit for the option B is 2%. And the search agent just looked up here the competitors or whatever, or what other people are investing, and search agent find here, this is just a Google search, that, I don't know, somebody else is investing here 300K. And then we have here an Outlook option B is, so you see, we went here for a general reasoning over the use here of multiple agent, simple code agent to calculate here for our investment portfolio, for our investment volume, the particular rate and return, whatever you like. And for our investment portfolio here, the search agent looks here at all the relevant parameters on the internet in real time. Now we have new reasoning data because we really have new data in the reasoning. And you might say, hey, this sounds interesting, no? So much more advanced than a pure RAG system. Well, let's come to the core idea. Core idea is now to have here a knowledge graph agent. The agent takes here now this new updated reasoning path with all the real data and says, you know what? I'm going to use these reasoning traces now, maybe for multiple option here, and I'm going to build something that will help me in the next reasoning. So this knowledge agent builds now here from all the different reasoning traces with the real-time data here, a knowledge graph. And this knowledge graph, we put this here in the dynamic memory of our agent. And you immediately see the more reasoning LLM, the more option it explores. Should you invest in option A, in option B, in option C? Hey, what about we invest in some other titles, complete different? What about the profit margin over there? You just need here simple agent and calculate this given your numerical simulation, given your computer programs that you have in finance or that you have in material science or wherever you are in medicine. Just let this scenario be calculated, and then we have the results, and the results will build a new reasoning pathway here for the next decision to be taken by the AI. Now, we all know February 2nd, here we have from OpenAI the Deep Research Agent. So this seems to be here introducing deep research here. Beautiful. But let's have here a look at the fact how we can improve on OpenAI. This is the paper, University of Oxford, February 7, 2025. Now we're doing deep research with multi-agent structure. Although the people here, the authors here, claim that they are just doing this here with one agent and the other agents are just tools. So the idea is here not here the typical multi-agent optimization methodologies, but we have only one agent and all the other agents are just tools that are not self-learning. So the only agent that learns and increases here its knowledge pathway is more or less here the main agent. And here you have here from the official publication. So we have here our LLM models, our reasoning models, our R1, our O3 mini, where we do not see here the reasoning, our Gemini 2 thinking. And then you give it a particular task. And you know, this is the crux because you just give a very special, dedicated, absolutely specialized task. You say, for the amount of money that I want to invest, do this, this, this. So the reasoning now starts for your particular query. Beautiful. If there's something missing, just goes here to the Google search agent, collects all the data that it needs, all the PDF I extracted. Beautiful. We have here access to a Python compiler, so all the coding is done. Or maybe the agent goes directly here to Cursor. Much better if we have here an AI that has here the control over Cursor or Bolt or whatever you have, comes back with the numerical result of the numerical simulation. So we have here then dedicated projected results that will be here imported in our reasoning chain. And the idea is now we have this reasoning chain. Here, this university said, hey, we just went here in a two-dimensional manifold and we just do here a mind map. And this is it. But hey, you know, a mind map is just a two-dimensional projection from a three-dimensional or n-dimensional knowledge graph. So we will not limit ourselves in our intellectual task here. And here we have the results. So this is here of University of Oxford official results, performance comparison here on a PhD level, multiple choice Q&A benchmark, where we have questions here, physics, chemistry, and biology. And here you have all the different models, beautiful. And then you see, of course, in the last line here, where they say agentic reasoning. Yeah, they call this agentic reasoning. And of course, this has here more or less the best performance of all the other models. Beautiful. So you see, there is something to it. If you have here multiple agents that are really specialized for their task, where you have really numerical simulation that you can run, that you get real data back here from the simulation to help you decide, for example, on your next investment. And then here in the table 2, with human experts, and as you can see, those are the performance parameters of the human, and this is the performance parameter of here the AI systems. And yeah, you can say it is superhuman or better than human or general average human or whatever you want. Doesn't make any sense because we know that even those systems can fail significantly. What is a much more critical aspect here is this one. I have to tell you personally, I do not agree with the insight on this particular chart because they argue here as a success indicator. The more tool calls there are on a model, the tool calls 20 tools, 30 tools, 40 tools, they argue here that their agentic reasoning system here has a higher performance. You see here, let's say this is medicine, this is law, and this is finance. Here in law, they notice, yeah, it plateaus out here. But I would not argue that 40 tool calls are a performance indicator in itself, you know. Maybe you have to do multiple numerical simulations here, but I don't think that in general, the more tools I call, the better the system performance will be. Because I just imagine myself, if today, Monday morning, you do not provide me a cup of coffee, and you can put in front of me 30, 40 books, and you tell me, hey, do this mathematical whatever, and you find a solution in one of those 40 books. So I open 40 books, I have 40 book calls, and maybe I will not find a solution. And just half an hour later, if I had a little croissant, I'm just in Paris right now, and I enjoy a beautiful cup of coffee, you know, maybe I just need 5 tool calls. I just need to open 5 books to find immediately the solution. So maybe I do not really agree that the better the model does, the more tool calls there are, but yeah, you just should know about this fact. And here they said here for this mindness, for this two-dimensional projection, unfortunately, University of Oxford goes only here with a two-dimensional underrepresentation. They say this enhances here the deductive reasoning in strategic games, and they have here the werewolf game, and they run this here also with humans and with AI, and only with AI. And if you look at this player 5, 6, 7, 8, with certain characteristics, you immediately understand, yep, I have here already half a year ago developed here my extreme logic test for Strawberry. This was open AI 01, and yeah, we had 7 different players, if you want, with 3 specific characteristics. So you see, it is more or less always the same logical tests. Please remember, and this is in my video LLMs at their breaking point, including O1 and R1, it is really about the complexity of the task. The more complex the task, the more you need here more performant reasoning system. Because you see here, for a small complexity, a 2x2 puzzle, yeah, you can go with a Claude Sonnet, no problem. But if you go to a 4x4 puzzle, you see that the performance just crashes down significantly. And if you're below 30%, I mean, you don't need an AI to solve this particular problem. This is the end of the video, and I'll say thank you. Now, however, if you're a subscriber, you know that I always have also some ideas that go a step further. Because if I read this particular paper, I have the feeling we can do more, yeah? Because imagine, so we have here now our beautiful R1, and we look here at the reasoning path before the answer is generated. We built here our code agents, our search agent. We built here our knowledge graph from all the reasoning traces. Maybe we will let it run 10 times. So we have here a beautiful knowledge graph developing for my very specific query, for my investment volume, for my preferences here. And all this knowledge graph is my personal knowledge graph with my trajectories and reasoning traces in the memory. And you know, if we have this, we can go now the next step and we say, hey, wait a minute, if I have a knowledge graph, if I have a graph, I can have now the LLM not reasoning on an advanced complexity, but I can have my LLM reasoning only on this limited complexity of a graph, a knowledge graph. And if you're not familiar with this is the video for you, LLM plan on graph. So this is new knowledge graph adaptive reasoning, where really we plan on a graph manifold here with an LLM, and the LLM plans its action and its steps and decision it will take to find here the perfect solution. So you see, we just need, if we have this here, to apply here the free GitHub code from this video. And then, you go here with knowledge-driven RAG system, or you go with sim graph RAG systems if you prefer this. Or this video here is empower LLMs with knowledge graph. So we're really not working on the graph, but with a graph together, a neural network and a graph network from MIT. Or you go here with the latest about smarter AI reasoning with knowledge graph and agents together. Then this is the video with the GitHub code for you. But in any way, you immediately understand, hey, wait a minute, if this builds up now in the memory, this is some real important criteria that are very specific to my specific query. And I don't want to lose these insights. I don't want to lose these reasoning pathways, how to come to a good solution for my investment portfolio, for example. So what we do, you can imagine immediately, we will use this memory and somehow update here our agent. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do this. Maybe if you have a look at this video where I showed you the test time preference optimization, so not the classical DPO that we have here, pre-training and then supervised fine-tuning and then DPO, but this is, we could update here our test time preference optimization, our TPU routine with this memory content. And just want to give you here just another idea, if you here really made it to the end of this video, just to test things out. You know, I try to keep it simple. I'm going to show you here my method. Because you see, this is a rather non-linear development. So what I do, just to get an idea, just to get a feeling if it works, I read this myself here, the reasoning of the R1, and I act on it. And if I see here that it says, hey, I could imagine option B, to analyze this, and option B, I would analyze another financial parameter. I just do it. Either I use a code agent or I calculate it manually or whatever. Or if if I would have access to the internet, or one tells me I would look up the following financial parameters of competitors, I just do it, And then I insert all this data here manually. So I solve this myself, and then I just say I insert a solution here myself, and then I have here all on this reasoning structure, all the real-time data inserted beautifully from all the different agents and whatever, and then I just use a standard code to build a knowledge graph from whatever reasoning traces there are, given their complexity. So I end up with a knowledge graph. And now what I do, I just make a check, So I say, okay, is it really worth to build this knowledge graph? I mean, from my feeling, I would say, hey, this sounds interesting, because it is really specific to my query, with my parameters, with my investment volume, with my risk situation, with my portfolio, and. So I say, you know what I do? Yeah, this you can do yourself. You don't need to code anything. I just go to R1 and say, hey, I read this. And then as in the second turn, if I have a multi-turn conversation with R1, I say, hey, I just found out that the parameter you were looking for is 7%, this is 2%, and the investment volume is 300K, whatever. So I just have here the second turn. I give here all the data to R1, and I see what R1 is doing now in the next round of reasoning. And then whenever I think, okay, all the data are now there, we have now a solid reasoning path here created here, or multiple reasoning path if I run it multiple times with different parameter maybe. I just use a standard code, build a knowledge graph, and there it is. And now the idea is simple, no? So I go here in another session to R1 or Gemini 2 thinking experimental, whatever you have, never mind, but it should be a reasoning model because the complexity is quite high here. Say, hey, R1, my own, here's now a knowledge graph to help you solve this specific query. So I have now, especially if I do not have access to fine-tune or any way moderate here R1, because R1 has a mixture of expert with 671 billion fit trainable parameter, is rather huge. I say, hey, buddy, here is a knowledge graph. This is my very specific knowledge graph with my financial data, with my risk portfolio, with whatever. You get the idea. And if I see in my very simple trial and error that this works, that the result now from R1, if I provide a knowledge graph for the reasoning of R1, if I get a better result, I personally for myself, I think, hey, this is great. I will use this knowledge graph in my next task also. So you see, it can be so easy to do AI, but just as an idea. Yeah, coming back now to the original literature by University of Oxford, very formal. So, thoughtful answers to open-ended questions require extensive research, repeated verification, informal retrieval, and computational analysis, and the organization of complex logical relationships, like the humans do. And so, hey, can we do this if we have a multiple external tool set, or every tool is now more or less an agent by itself, to enhance here the reasoning and the reasoning performance? And as you see, they found with a simple three-sum here, of a search agent, of a coding agent, and of a memory agent who builds here either a two-dimensional mind map or maybe a little bit more complex reasoning structure. This is great to show here test time computational efficiency goes up. And this agentic framework has also a strong potential to serve as a reward model for the reinforcement learning, further advancing reasoning model training. Beautiful, yeah? And they also compared here against, as I shown, Gemini Deep Research is better than Gemini's, and they say, and I had to smile, the experiment with OpenAI Deep Research are going on. They do encounter something, and you might say what they encounter. And if you want to have a look, maybe here you find the explanation what they might encounter. But of course, I don't know because OpenAI is closed up and proprietary, and there's no way to know anything about it. So let's come to the end. It is easy. So I think maybe whenever you still operate the RAG system, retrieval augmented generation, you think this is it. Also for some reasoning, more complex reasoning task that you want to solve with a RAG system. maybe it is a good idea just to have a thought about, hey, why not switch here to a RAR system? So reasoning on the agentic reasoning structure with representation of this reasoning path by a knowledge graph, and then we imply here an LLM that acts on a knowledge graph. But I thought maybe this is my invention, because it should be familiar to RAG, And I thought RR, so RAR, however you want to pronounce this. So I'm really excited thinking about this was more or less 2024. And now we are only here at the mid of February 2025. And we are also talking here about multi-agent configuration, where we have agentic reasoning over knowledge reasoning pathways that are now embedded here into complex knowledge graph. And we have LLM that act on complex knowledge graph with reduced complexity and have an improved reasoning performance. If you like this kind of videos, maybe you subscribe, because it could be that there's another video waiting for you in the next days.